Hi, welcome or welcome back to my book sanctuary. I'm Bianca and I wanted to update you on my reading in February. So I've read a fair few books so far this month and I just wanted to give you a mid-month update in regards to all the books that I've ended up reading. But in the end of January, I did end up reading Lucky, which is the first book in the MC series. So I continued on with Bear. And I quite enjoyed these. They are a little bit heavy, but they are motorcycle club romance books, so that's kind of to be expected, I think. But so Bear ends up having this one night stand, and he just can't seem to get her out of his head. And he's a little bit restless about the whole situation, and he wants to find her, but he just can't. And then, due to reasons, he ends up bumping into Tessa at the emergency room at the hospital because she's a doctor and she's obviously pregnant and it's his. So yeah. So it's a one night stand, surprise pregnancy, and Bear doesn't want to let Tessa go, and straight away he just wants to make them a family and be with Tessa, and it's actually really sweet. And I love the whole MC. Like, everybody is really funny. And it has its heavy moments, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. So then I moved on to the next book, which is Bulldog. And Bulldog, he's the sergeant of arms of the club, and his brother is the deputy sheriff of town. And his brother calls him up. Carlos? Was it Carlos? Yeah. Carlos rings him up and tells him there's an issue on the side of the road and Bulldog needs to come straight away. And Bulldog, once upon a time, had the love of his life, but they were teenagers and they were really young. And they ended up getting separated because she moved away and he went to the military. So the MC club is basically ex-military members. That's their thing. And Bulldog shows up on the side of the road and sees this van, and Abby's in the van. And Abby is not in a good way. This is really heavy when I think about it, like really, really heavy. She has been more or less held captive by this very cult-like organization who don't treat women very well at all. So she has a child and she's pregnant. Does she have another child? I can't remember now. But she's definitely pregnant. And there's a couple other children thrown into the mix and they've escaped. And it's, like I said, very heavy. Very heavy, actually. So watch the trigger warnings, but I really enjoyed this, like, a lot. Bulldog and Abby gravitate towards each other and don't want to let each other go. But because of all the trauma that's recently happened and the trauma that's happened in Abby's life and the guilt that Bulldog feels, they're too attached to each other, almost in an unhealthy way. So I adored this, actually, like, a lot. It was so sweet. I then moved on to Jumper because I really meshed with this whole motorcycle club series. So with Jumper, he's the secretary in the club and he struggles because of his military life and history there. He's got severe PTSD and he has an ex-police dog as a support dog, and she's cool. Jasmine's the local vet and she's sort of had this thing for Jumper for a while, and Jumper has a thing for her, but he's just a little too damaged as far as he's concerned to be in a relationship with her. She deserves better. And Jasmine takes the leap and is like, you know, I'm going to try this thing with Jumper and see what happens. And he needs her help and the club needs her help through an issue. And yeah, this Jumper's got a lot of problems, which is fair. It's massively fair. And then Jasmine sort of gets herself in a little bit of a pickle because there's obviously issues coming. There's issues in town with some ding-dongs abusing dogs and a dog fighting ring and all that crappy shit. So Jasmine gets involved in that, sort of not really thinking the situation through 100%, and Jumbo is not impressed. And again, absolutely love everybody involved, the whole club, not just Jumper and Jazz. But then I moved on to Angel. And Angel, I liked this one. Angel is the only female member of the club. And Cage has a thing for her. And if I remember correctly, he is a bit younger than her. Not by much, but a little bit. And Angel is all about being an independent woman and isn't really interested in a relationship, but kind of is. And then Angel finds out she's pregnant. And she honestly can't remember who the father is because she was extremely drunk and has no idea. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm giving too much away here, but she does lose the pregnancy very early on, and she struggles to deal with that a bit. Even though she kind of didn't want a child, she kind of did, and it's complicated. Cage wants a relationship with her, but she's hesitant. And yeah, this is really sweet in a lot of ways because Cage just wants to be with her, and then things start coming out and he learns what happened to her, and and then things get complicated really quickly because Angel actually does have a child that she adopted in the series. The club saved this young girl. She is now Angel's daughter, and I really love the representation in this series. Just, it's very heavy, but there's quite a bit of disability representation in here, and I really liked it. I think it's done really well. So there is that. So then I read Demo, and Demo is the 6th book in the series. And Demo got shot in the shoulder, if I remember correctly, and he is having some serious pain issues. And Paige is this acupuncturist, single mother, complicated back history, and is just struggling to keep her business afloat, her boys, supplied with things they need to survive. And she's just a little bit struggling. And Demo, is in awe of her when he meets, when he really gets to know her. And they're just sweet together. They really are. Then I ended up reading the VDMC Holiday Special. But basically, this is just a quick little novella in Christmas time about the club. And it's just little snippets, and it's really cute, and I wish it was longer. But then I kept going on with the series and actually read Carlos's trilogy. So it's actually in 3 sections. It's a trilogy, Bianca, you idiot. But it is 3 books. They're really tiny, though, like 100 pages each. So it probably could have been 1 book, but whatever. She split it into 3. And it's just Carlos's story. And he is Bulldog's brother. And he's the sheriff. And he has been intrigued for a while about this mysterious guest at the club. And she has a son. And just, life is a little complicated and for her, and Carlos gets involved, and there's things going on there, and it's just sweet. It's quick, sweet fun with Carlos, but it is more of the club, so you get more of the club too. I just really enjoyed the whole club. Then The Hermit came out. I have been waiting for this for a while. Michelle Hurd, I discovered her last year. She's actually going to the Rare event I'll be going to in October, so I'll meet her for the first time. Probably buy a few of her books and get her to sign them. But yeah, I'm excited about that. But I've been waiting for this book for a while. And it didn't disappoint. I really enjoyed it. I really like her writing. It's just intriguing. But this is another mafia romance. And I've forgotten her name. Anyway, long story short. It's an arranged marriage. And Dominic Varga is this assassin, mafia, big dude that no one wants to mess with. And I can't remember her name, but her father is wanting to arrange Dominic to marry his youngest daughter. She's not going to allow her sister to marry Dominic, and she has been married before and has had a bit of an abusive relationship there and isn't wanting her sister Ciara to go through that. So she more or less wants to offer herself up and say, Dominic is going to marry me. Dominic is not really interested in marrying anybody, but then he is intrigued by her and just in awe of her strength and a bit of her recklessness, and he's drawn to her, and they're just so sweet. And he's a hermit and he hates people. And he has this really lovely right-hand woman who takes care of everything, and yeah, they're really interesting, and I really, really enjoyed the whole dynamic of the both of them, and I really loved this, like really loved it. Not surprised though, I was expecting to enjoy it. Then I ended up reading Not Here For You. So this is an Omegaverse book, and this one is a bit odd in a way. So they're teenagers, and I think it's like 3 or 4 alpha to be and this girl, and she hasn't presented as an Omega yet. This is weird because the guys basically choose this other Omega thinking they're doing the right thing to protect their soulmate and who they don't believe is an Omega. They break her heart. She disappears for 7 years. And they kind of blame her for it. And it's... there's bits of this I didn't really like because the men, the alphas, they just weren't... It kind of put all the blame on her. Like it was all her fault. How dare she leave? She didn't understand what they were trying to do. And I think they understood to a certain degree that they were wrong, but at the same time, I don't think they did. And I think they should have groveled a little bit more. Especially with some of the things that they said to her and some of the things that happened. I just think they were a little unfair. So I did enjoy this. And, you know, there were secrets and things that came out, but at the same time, it was a little frustrating. Because it's not all her fault. It wasn't really her fault at all. You lied to her. So, yeah, I enjoyed this, but at the same time, it sort of frustrated me. Then I ended up reading Not Happening Again. So this is another Omegaverse book. And with this one, so she's half-marked Omega. And she's suffering because of that. Her health is a little bit ordinary all over the place. Desperate, she's about to go to her heat, and she decides to go to this place called Temporary Bonds. And this is an agency that sort of matches Omegas with alphas. And there's no strings attached, no commitments. They don't need to bond or anything like that. It's just them sharing a heat, sex. But she finds the pack and she's drawn to them. And absolutely finding herself kind of falling in love with a few of them. But one of the alphas is kind of having personal issues, and the rest of the pack doesn't understand what's going on with him. It's because he feels a lot of guilt about this Omega he met, who he half-marked. So she is the Omega that he half-marked, and so Leon and her need to figure shit out, and yeah, it gets complicated really quickly. I quite enjoyed this one. There was a few issues here and there. I don't know, I think it was a bit weird in spots, but I enjoyed it. It was a fun time for the most part. So then I wanted to mention another Omegaverse book, Not Your Average Beta. So with this one, she thought she was a beta, but then she ends up having this amazing night with an alpha. Turns out she actually is an Omega, and they end up bonding and biting. Things get complicated really quickly, especially considering they're mafia. This pack of alphas is mafia, and she's thrown herself into a world she kind of didn't understand. And there's this intriguing mystery with her, because she's been to doctors on and off her whole life, and I thought it was slightly obvious where it was going, but I mean, I really enjoyed it in a lot of ways too. And she's having troubles because she's been a beta her whole life, is having troubles with the omega instincts. And at the same time, there's this mystery with this doctor that she was seeing pretty much her whole life. And lots of sexy time because it is an Omegaverse. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Then I read Believe It or Not. So this is another an Omegaverse book. And this one, she's an Omega that has this crush on this celebrity. And by some coincidence, he ends up breaking down with his security, an alpha, part of his pack. And they break down basically near her home and ask for shelter and stuff. And the alphas pursue her and quite aggressively. She's a little hesitant. But then out of the blue, her best friend sort of returns home, and he's always known that she is his, but she feels abandoned by him, and it's a little complicated. And then they're all these alphas are shitting at, like, are kind of competing against each other for her, and they're making her life complicated really quickly. But then they also sort of don't understand her position whatsoever and kind of blame her for a few things. They finally get their heads out of their asses though, so there is that. And then I moved in to talk about history. And Omega has basically found out that her alphas and her pack are cheating on her with her best friend. So she bails. She calls her brothers and decides to go back home. And that's it. She's coming back and starting her whole new life again. And there's a whole complicated thing going on there with her ex-pack and just some serious dodgy shit. And then as she's trying to get her life back together, she slowly discovers all her scent matches in town, more or less. And it's a little overwhelming for her because she just got out of this really messy situation and now she's trying to build and rebuild her life, but all her scent matches have shown up to complicate things. And yeah, I quite enjoyed this. I liked the whole family aspect and just the town itself, and I liked the alphas. I liked her and how she was, slowly rebuilding her life. Yeah, so I moved on to the second book. So talk about rivalry. This one's about Maverick, who's the brother, and he's always sort of had this attraction to his sister's best friend. Never really done anything about it. And then things start getting complicated. She sort of has this thing with this fellow Omega, but they really haven't done anything about it. And then Maverick is sort of is asked on a date. She gets jealous. She tries to sabotage it. Things get complicated really quickly. When Taylor's best friend Leo gets involved, and it gets complicated really quickly. And I really enjoyed this. It was sweet. Then I just wanted to mention the last book for the month, or half the month, that I ended up reading was Talk About Drama. So this is the third book in the series in the Rockwood Valley Omegaverse. And with this one, she hires a fake pack to make her ex jealous. But it turns out the new pack is her scent matches. And yeah. And Cameron broke her heart many years ago. She was bonded to him, but he went through some personal tragedies and just pushed her away. And now that she's finally starting to get her life together and build a pack, Cameron gets involved in her life again, and it just gets complicated again really quickly. But that was basically all the books that I've read so far in the month. I will end up updating you for the rest of the month's reading. It'll be a little shorter. Hopefully in the future I will end up updating you a little bit more, especially if I'm reading such a high quality of books. Maybe I'll try to update you once a week, but no promises. We'll see what happens. It has cooled down a bit, so, that's a bonus. It feels like it might start raining. Thanks so much for watching, really do appreciate it, and I shall catch you in the next video. Thanks everyone, bye! Why are Australian summers so hot? I am melting. Melting! Anyway.